Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Red Dirt Rods. Now today I'm going to show you how to make a tool to measure your car for wheel fitment, diameter, backspacing, and width. It works for all of it. You can even use it to check the tire diameter and width for your car to make sure that you only order them once and you don't end up with a set of wheels that don't fit. And we're going to show you how to make this tool so you can do it for your project. If you have a question or see something you like, make sure you leave a comment. Now, let's get to it. Okay, so I built this a long time ago, and basically all it is, it's really simple. It's a couple of pieces of aluminum angle. And I use aluminum because this is an extruded piece, and so it's got a sharp inside corner so that you can stack the two pieces together like this. There's three components to this. The first one is the part that bolts to the rotor. This is a single hole, and then this one is a slot. This particular tool will fit any hub that has 5 on 4 3/4 or 5 on 4 1/2, which fits most vehicles. If you have a truck or a Chrysler, then you're gonna need 5 on 5, and you can just make this a little bit bigger. Then we also have, you'll see here, a little groove. We ground this in there to accommodate the hub of the actual rotor. Then from there, we've got a bunch of holes drilled. So these holes are each drilled an inch apart, and that is used for this piece. So this piece comes on here, and you just slide it and line it up with each hole that you want to use. This one is for tire measurement. So you've got a piece of all thread that you can set for your backspacing overall tire width. The first set is 21 1/2, 22 1/2, 23 1/2, and so on. And that is so you can set this to the rough diameter of your tires and check the fit. So we take our main piece that bolts to the rotor, and we just drilled 2 holes that corresponded with these holes. The end hole on this one, and you can configure this however you want. Just put a 1/4 nut and bolt on it, and then to lock it in position, we use that second hole. So now we have this. So this bolts to the rotor, and now we have this section and a piece of all thread. So each of these holes, I'll show you here. So I used an awl to scratch the center. Just mark that with this Sharpie so you can see it better. So if you set your tape measure right there at that position, okay, then this hole is 18-inch wheels. This one is 19-inch wheels. The one we're using here is for 20s. Then I've got 22s, 24s, 26s. You can add one for 16s or 15s or whatever, but we're not gonna go that small. I rarely run wheels that small, so usually start about 18. So that's why I made my tool this way. So I'm going to reposition this because on our El Camino, we're shooting for 18-inch wheels. So this is a really cool piece. Just a piece of all thread. This is 1/4 all thread. And this piece is 6 inches wide. You can make it whatever size you want. It's adjustable so that you can pull this in more. Going with 6 inches wide on a 50/50 backspace, you're looking at a 12-inch wide wheel. That's why I went with 6. I have a closed-in acorn nut on the end of it so that it doesn't catch on anything. So I'm going to take this over to the car and show you guys how to use it. Okay, so when this car came to us, it had some wheel spacers on it. It's got some wheel adapters on it to fit the rollers that this thing came with, which are bent. They're just rollers. So we've got to pull these spacers off first. So I've got my impact here. So first thing, you need to know what your bolt pattern is. Chevys are real easy. It's 5 on 4 3/4 or 5 on 5. This one's 5 on 4 3/4. I'm going to show you how to measure for that. So when you're measuring lugs, you always go across the center of the hub. You never go side to side. So this is 5 on 3/4, and I'll show you how you do that. So you put your tape measure on the end of one lug, and you measure across the center of the next lug. These lugs have a reduced centering post. So what you do here is you come across the top of the thread and you measure at the center of the lug. So you don't go outside to outside, you don't go inside to inside, you go outside to center. And that shows 5 on 4 3/4. I also have these cool little checkers. These are for 4 lug and these are for 5 lug. So you just put this on until you find one that lines up. So 4 3/4, 4 3/4, slips right on. That's how you check your bolt pattern. Modern cars are all measured in millimeters. So in millimeters, this would be a 120.65 millimeter bolt pattern. That can get really confusing. 5 on 4.5 inch bolt pattern is 114 millimeter. So when you order wheels today, most of the time they're gonna be metric. And so you need to be able to convert that. All right, so we're gonna put our tool on the rotor. You'll notice this one centers. It's not slotted, and then this one is slotted because this is 4 3/4. So zip these on. All right, so we've got our fitment checker bolted to the rotor, and we've got it set at 18. So we can rotate it all the way around. Okay, obviously we're hitting the caliper. That's okay. So I do want to point one thing out. We're doing 18s. This particular set of brakes that we've got on here, if you come down here, you see this. This is actually the 16-inch position. That would hit this caliper. So these calipers require a minimum of 17s. I don't have a 17-inch hole on my tool because I'm not going to run 17s for the most part. So we're running 18. So that's one thing you got to check. But this shows clearance. Now I want to point this out. So this is the kind of clearance that you need to check for your wheel. So we've got this set at 6 inches. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to measure from the end of that acorn to the inside edge of our tool. Okay. So it's actually a hair under 6 inches. So we could roll that out. But if you were going to run whatever wheel you're going to run on here, you have a maximum of 6 inches behind the mounting surface. So if you were going to run a 10-inch wheel up front, like if this was a autocross car or road racer, and you wanted to run a 10-inch wide front wheel, your maximum back spacing is limited to 6 inches on the back side. Because if you run something wider, you're going to hit the upper A-arm. This is the kind of stuff that you got to check. So this wheel, we've got it cranked all the way to the right. Check it all the way around. Make sure there's not going to hit anything else. We're good all the way around. Then we turn the wheel all the way to the other side. So we roll it down. This shows how much clearance you have to your tie rods, all of that stuff. Plenty of clearance. So 18-inch wheel works great. You can go up to 6 inches on the back side. Now we'll take this off. We're gonna check the outside. Now on this particular car, it has a real big, wide open fender, so you can have the wheel stick out if you want. We get the wheel running straight, and then we're going to set the post up and down vertically. So now there's a couple different ways you can check the outside width. So if you want the wheel flush with the outer fender, you take a level and you're just gonna hang it. You're gonna touch the bottom of the fender. You're gonna hang it so that it's level, okay? And here, you can go pretty wide. So let's go this level, go into the back side, and you can run 7 1/4 max outside width. So you could run a pretty big wheel on this thing. You could run a 13-inch wide wheel, which nobody's gonna do. Or you come into the inside and you can find the narrowest point. Which on this one, I mean, you're not going to go that high, but all the way up into the fender. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to hang this on the inside wheel lip, and I'm going to get this level right about there. So here we just measure right to the edge. And that's 4 inches. So I'm going to write that down. You can do 6 inches. I'm going to explain a little bit of the terminology on wheels. You've got your diameter, which is the outside diameter, the overall diameter. So that's going to be like a 15, 16, 17, 18, 20-inch wheel. Then you have backspacing and offset. Backspacing is the measurement from the wheel mounting surface, which would be the rotor or hub, to the back of the wheel lip. So on this particular car, you can run a maximum of 6-inch backspace, period. Doesn't matter what the wheel width is. 6 inches is your maximum. You can only have 6 inches behind the mounting surface. That changes based on how wide the wheel is, but your maximum is 6-inch backspacing max. The other measurement is the offset. So there's no offset, which is balanced. You've got positive offset and negative offset. Positive offset is from the center back, where the hub moves. The hub essentially moves from the center towards the street side of the wheel, giving you more backspacing. Negative offset moves the hub to inward, so you have more spacing to the street side and a smaller backspace. So with that, offset is all based on the center of the wheel versus the hub. We've measured the front. We know that we can run a maximum 6-inch backspacing. We can have to stay inside the fender, we can run 4 inches. If we want the wheel parallel with the outside edge of the fender, if we want it to just come flush with the outside fender, then we can run as much as 5 inches. Now, you're also going to have tire sidewall. So if you run your wheel flush with the fender, then you're gonna have a little bit of tire unless you're running a really low profile tire. So that gives you some options. It's really easy to figure out from there what you want. For this car, we could easily run an 8-inch wide wheel on a 0 offset. So it's 4 inches behind and 4 inches out front. I will probably run a 1-inch positive offset so that we have 5 inches of back spacing, and we tuck just a little bit of the wheel inside, because we're gonna run 18s and we're gonna have some sidewall. That gives us a little bit of room. It should look really good and still fit inside the fender, just in case we wanna lower this some more. Now we need to go back and measure the rear of the car. Okay, so we've got the tool installed on the rear, and so now we can look at our rear width. We're also going to look at tire size out here on the back. We're set up on the front, so I'm just gonna do the same thing up here. Hold this until it is level, measure from the back side. Max here is just under 6 inches, about 5 5/8. Also gonna come over here, we're gonna come forward a little bit where the quarter panel, the wheel lip, turns in a little bit. We're gonna check that as well. About the same, okay. So just wanted to make sure that we're good. All the way around, we're good on the front. So we bring it all the way up here. In the back, we've got plenty of clearance all the way around for a 6-inch backspace, but let's see what our max is. So we're gonna measure from the back side of this to the frame, and that's 7 inches. Max wheel width is gonna be 12 inches. 12 and a half is probably stretching it. Now, that's for the wheel. Okay, so we know what we can fit wheel-wise. Let's see what we can do for the tire. We didn't do this up front because we've got a little bit more room up front, and we're not gonna run a monster wide tire up front. So we're gonna take that off. We're gonna put our tire size on here. So now, this piece of all thread that's right down here, this piece of all thread shows how far we can go. Now, to the back side, we are still limited to that 7 inches, okay? The important number here, because we know the max here. We don't know how wide we can go on the front. So I turned this all thread around, and this is adjustable, so I can pull it in, bring this up. Okay, so I know that that's too wide, so let's thread this in some more. Thread it in so it clears the inner wheel lip, just clears. I'm gonna pull that in some more because that's not enough. So right here, I've got this maxed out, so we roll it up here. Okay, so at 31 and a half inches tall, it clears the wheel lip, but it doesn't clear this upper wheel lip, and we're not gonna run that wide. So what we wanna do is find what tall, we're not gonna run that tall. So let's go down to 28 and a half inches. We know how wide we can go, inward and outward. Now we can do some math and figure out the exact right wheel size and tire size that we can fit underneath our El Camino. Let's make magic.